Sometimes silence might seem strange to those watching from the outside. People think you've given up, lost the battle, or simply stopped trying. But what they don't understand is that silence can be your greatest weapon. While everything appears still, that's when you're gaining strength, learning from your mistakes, and crafting a plan to come back stronger. You know that feeling when it seems like everyone is watching and judging you? They talk behind your back, jump to conclusions, and don't even bother asking how you're doing. But the truth is, you're staying quiet because you know their noise won't help you. Silence is your space to take a deep breath, organize your thoughts, and build the energy you need to surprise everyone. Deep down, no one knows what's happening inside you. They only see the surface and think they understand everything. But what they don't realize is that while they were laughing, you were preparing. Every quiet moment was a brick you laid to build something bigger. It's not weakness, it's strategy. Silence gives you time to remember who you are, think about what you want, and decide your next move. And when the time comes to act, the impact will be so massive that no one will know how to react. They'll realize that while they were talking, you were growing, and then everything changes. When you fell, it felt like the world around you decided that was the end. People see a fall and immediately start putting you in a box. Oh, they won't get back up. They've gone too far. It's the end of the road. It's like they're in a rush to declare your defeat. But what they don't see is that the end doesn't happen just because they decided so. The end only comes if you decide to stop fighting. Meanwhile, the laughs and comments continue. They look at you with pity, or worse, with that smug sense of superiority, as if they're confirming what they always thought about you. But what they don't know is that every word of doubt, every mocking laugh, is actually fueling you to move forward. Yes, there was a moment when it felt like there was no way out, that everything was lost. But that moment wasn't the end. It was the starting point. Because down there, at rock bottom, you began to realize just how much you were capable of overcoming. What seemed like your defeat was only the beginning of something much bigger. While people are busy labeling you, you're tearing down all their negative expectations. The secret? Don't worry about what they think. They can say whatever they want, but they have no idea what you're planning or building. They think your journey is over, but they can't imagine you're just getting warmed up. And the most interesting part is that, deep down, they don't really expect you to come back. That makes your comeback even more powerful. Because when you show up again, stronger and more confident, it will be impossible to ignore. The silence they misinterpreted as defeat will become the loudest victory cry they've ever seen. Have you noticed how people have this habit of underestimating others? When you fall or take a step back, they quickly assume you won't recover. But that's the thing. The impact of an epic comeback only happens because no one saw it coming. And the best part is seeing the look of surprise on everyone's face when you show up again. Stronger, more prepared, and absolutely impossible to ignore. An epic comeback isn't about making noise for the sake of it or rubbing your success in anyone's face. It's about showing up with strength and confidence, proving that every battle, every tear, and every tough moment was worth it. The same people who doubted you, who jumped to conclusions, will be the ones forced to applaud even reluctantly. And it's not just about proving something to others. An epic comeback is, above all, proof to yourself. It's looking back and realizing that everything that seemed impossible was overcome. It's feeling the weight of everything you carried on your shoulders, but also the lightness of knowing you made it through. When people underestimate you, they're essentially giving you an advantage. Because while they're distracted, thinking you've already lost, you're there, preparing. So when you return, it's not just a small step forward. It's a leap so massive that it leaves everyone speechless. And the best part, you don't even need to say a word. Your actions speak for you. That impact isn't just about what you've achieved, but about how much you've changed. It's not about returning to where you were before. It's about coming back far beyond that, transformed. And what makes it even more special is knowing that while so many doubted you, you never stopped believing in yourself. That's what makes a comeback truly epic. No one sees what happens behind the curtains. People look at the stage, see what they want to see, and make judgments as if they know everything. But the truth is, while you were fighting your battles, no one could imagine the amount of effort it took to keep moving forward. Every challenge, every no, every closed door felt like a stone thrown in your path. But instead of stopping you, those stones became steps. It was hard, painful, and often lonely, but those moments shaped the strength you have now. Without those struggles, you might never have discovered what you're truly capable of. It's not easy. Some days it feels like you're fighting the whole world, and other days you're battling just yourself. In those moments, your mind plays tricks, doubts creep in, and the urge to give up grows stronger. But every time you choose to keep going, even if it's just one more step, you're becoming stronger. These silent battles, the ones no one sees, are the ones that transform you the most. Because in the midst of the chaos, you start to realize that pain isn't the end. Pain is the process. Every time you fall and get back up, you become more resilient. It's like intense training. Every repetition makes you better prepared to carry even heavier loads. What's amazing is that when people finally see your strength, they think it appeared out of nowhere. But you know it didn't. It was built piece by piece in moments no one saw. Every tear you wiped away alone, every sleepless night, every time you chose not to give up. Those are the things that brought you here. Now, when people look at you, they see someone who isn't easily brought down, someone who has learned from every scar and turned suffering into fuel. That strength isn't temporary. It's a part of you. And that's what makes your return so impressive. When you come back after so long, it doesn't go unnoticed. It's like thunder breaking the silence. The people who once ignored you, who didn't believe in your strength, now have no choice but to look and acknowledge the magnitude of your transformation. The impact of your comeback doesn't just come from what you've achieved, but from the way you've done it. It's impossible to ignore the energy of someone who has overcome so much, who has risen after being doubted, and who is now stronger than ever. It's like a massive wave no one saw forming, but when it arrives, it changes everything. The reactions from people are inevitable. Some are in awe, others are stunned, and some try to pretend nothing has changed, but deep down, everyone knows you're not the same person anymore. Every move you make, every victory, every step forward is a reminder that you're back, and not just back, but at a level no one expected. This impact is so powerful because it shatters the way people used to see you. Those who once saw you as fragile, lost, or aimless now have to face the reality that they underestimated you. It's almost a shock for them to realize they were wrong, and there's nothing more powerful than proving them wrong without saying a word. But the greatest impact, the one that truly matters, is what happens within you. It's feeling that, despite all the difficulties, you made it. And that radiates outward. Your confidence, determination, and presence are so intense they transform the environment around you. People can't ignore it because your strength is undeniable now. The best part is that this impact isn't temporary. It lasts. It leaves a mark on others, but most importantly, it leaves a mark on you. Every step you take is a reminder that, despite everything, you came back stronger. And no one, absolutely no one, can ignore that. Who hasn't felt the weight of defeat? That moment when it feels like everything went wrong, that there's no way out, and maybe it's just better to give up for good. But that's where the difference lies. While many see defeats as the end, you decided to see them as a beginning. Every fall, no matter how painful, became the push that set you on the path to transformation. The truth is, no one likes to fall. The feeling of failure hurts, the shame of messing up can be paralyzing, and the people around you seem to go out of their way to remind you of what you couldn't do. But what they don't understand is that every fall carries a lesson. It's as if each defeat was shaping you, preparing you for something greater. It's like a spring. The more it's compressed, the farther it launches when released. Defeats worked like that in your life. They pushed you down, yes, but only so you could gain momentum and come back even stronger. And while people thought you were lost, you were there, in the silence, absorbing every lesson and preparing for something they could never imagine. Rising doesn't happen all at once. It's a process. First, you have to accept that you've fallen. Then you need to decide you don't want to stay down. Finally, you start building the strength to get back up. It's hard, but that's exactly what makes your comeback so powerful. You didn't just overcome your defeats, you used each one as fuel to climb higher. When people look at you now, they might still see the marks from your falls, but what they can't ignore is how much you've grown because of them. What seemed like the end became the beginning of a story that no one can stop now. Your rise isn't just a recovery, it's a reminder that falls don't define who you are. What defines you is how you rise after them. No one sees what happens when you're alone. People don't see the sleepless nights, the thoughts that keep circling in your head, the struggle to keep yourself grounded when everything feels like it's falling apart. And it's exactly in that silence, in that place where no one is watching, that you started to shape yourself. These internal battles, the ones no one else notices, are the hardest. It's fighting against your doubts, the fear of failing again, and that overwhelming feeling that maybe you're not capable. These thoughts come like an avalanche, often feeling heavier than any external problem. But in the middle of this chaos, you decided to fight. Every small moment of resistance was a victory. Maybe no one noticed, but every time you chose to keep going, even when discouragement seemed to win, it was a step toward the strength you have today. These silent battles were like intense training sessions, preparing you to face the world in ways that once seemed impossible. The most impressive part is that while you were fighting with yourself, people thought nothing was happening. They saw your silence and assumed it was a sign of giving up when, in fact, it was the most crucial moment of your transformation. With every blow you endured and every challenge you faced, a new part of your strength was built. Now, when you look back, you realize that these battles shaped you in a unique way. It wasn't easy, and you probably wouldn't want to go through it all again. But you know that without those moments, you wouldn't be who you are today. That's why your strength is so overwhelming. It wasn't built from the outside in. It came from the deepest parts of you. And the most fascinating thing is that this strength, once hidden, is now impossible to ignore. The people around you who once couldn't see what was happening now can't look away, because what was forged in silence has turned into something so solid that no one can question it. You fought battles no one saw, and that has made you stronger than anyone could imagine. Rejection hurts. No matter how much you say you're used to it, hearing a no or realizing someone underestimated you feels like a punch to the gut. But what many people don't understand is that rejection, despite the pain, has the power to transform you if you know how to deal with it. Every obstacle, every closed door, wasn't a wall to stop you, but a barrier for you to climb over. At first, it's normal to feel lost. When you face rejection after rejection, it feels like the universe is conspiring against you. People doubt you, laugh at you, or simply ignore your effort. It can be discouraging, but it's in those moments that you discover how resilient you are. Because in the end, what truly matters isn't what they said about you, but how you choose to respond. The rejections began to work like a challenge. Every time someone said you couldn't do it, it was like a spark ignited within you. At first, it felt weak, just a mix of anger and sadness. But over time, you started to use it as fuel. Every obstacle became another reason to keep going, another reason to prove, not to them, but to yourself, that it was possible. The truth is that obstacles didn't just test you, they taught you. You learned to be more patient, more strategic, and to stop depending on anyone's approval. The difficulties forced you to find solutions you never would have considered in easier circumstances. And gradually, that made you stronger, turning you into someone who doesn't break easily. Now looking back, you see that rejection was a disguised gift. It showed you who truly believed in you, but more importantly, taught you to believe in yourself. Every no pushed you to become more creative, more determined, and more confident. And when you finally overcame all the obstacles, the feeling of accomplishment was indescribable. Today, those who rejected you or tried to stop you have no choice but to witness the results. They might not admit it, but they see that instead of destroying you, the challenges strengthened you. Your determination is now so unshakable that nothing can bring you down. And that's something no one can take away from you. When you choose silence, people think you've run out of strength to react. They mistake silence for giving up, as if not speaking or not acting immediately is a sign of weakness. But in reality, that silence was a strategy few understood. It was in that moment that you started preparing for something much bigger. In the silence, you organized your thoughts, reflected on what you truly wanted, and planned the right steps. Unlike those who act impulsively, you used time to your advantage. It wasn't about proving something to others at that moment, but about building the foundation for what was to come. While others were busy talking about you, you were busy creating your next move. Life isn't just about reacting. It's about knowing the right time to act. Silence gave you clarity, helping you separate what mattered from what was just noise. It was in that quiet space that you regained your energy, reorganized your strengths, and began to visualize what you wanted for the future. It wasn't weakness. It was focus. Of course, during that time, people didn't notice what was happening. They saw you quiet and thought you had given up, that you were stuck in the same place. But what they didn't know was that silence was where you found your strength, and when the time came to return, you were more prepared than ever. Now, looking back, you understand that silence was essential. If you had reacted impulsively, you might not have achieved the same impact you have now. It was in the silence that you rebuilt yourself piece by piece without haste and without needing anyone's approval. And the most fascinating part is that when you finally decided to act, the shock was inevitable. Because no one expected so much to come from someone who seemed to be in standby mode. In the end, silence was your greatest ally. It gave you time, focus, and energy to prepare for a comeback no one could foresee. And now, those who mistook your silence for weakness are facing the strength it helped you build. Coming back isn't just about getting back in the game. A true comeback is more than reclaiming what was lost. It's about redefining who you are, what you stand for, and what you're building moving forward. And your return wasn't just about resuming the journey, it was about transforming it entirely. Many people think a comeback is just fixing what went wrong before, but you did much more than that. While everyone expected only an adjustment, you were creating a revolution. Every step, every achievement, every change was planned not just to recover what was yours, but to build something even greater. This kind of comeback has such an impact because it's not just about overcoming past challenges. It's about becoming someone who has never existed before, a stronger, more confident, more focused version of yourself. It's not about returning to where you started, but about forging a new path, one that's far more solid and prepared for whatever comes next. What's most incredible is that this revolution wasn't made for others. It began within you, in the toughest moments when everything seemed lost. It was there that you decided you didn't just want to make it. You wanted to create something impossible to ignore, something you could be proud of, something no one could ever take away from you. Now, what you've built can't be classified as a simple recovery. It's something greater. It's a transformation that affects not only you, but everyone around you. Those who laughed at your fall now watch in amazement at the impact of this change, and the most powerful part is that it doesn't matter what they think. What matters is that you know this revolution was for you and because of you. Every small victory, every step forward, was more than just progress. It was a statement that you're not the same anymore. This revolution has no turning back. What once seemed impossible is now your new reality. You didn't just return. You transformed your life into something no one can ignore. Coming back is one thing, but coming back stronger is a completely different story. Often, when someone tries to rise again, people expect something modest, quiet, almost as if it's an apology for what went wrong before. But that wasn't your case. You didn't come back asking for permission. You came back firmer, more determined, and showing that nothing and no one can stop you. This strength you have now didn't come out of nowhere. It's the result of everything you've been through, every obstacle you faced and overcame. In the past, you might have cared about what others thought, about their opinions and expectations. But now those things have no power over you. The determination you've gained is so solid that no criticism, doubt, or rejection can shake you. And this determination isn't just visible in your accomplishments. It's in every detail. In the way you face challenges, the confidence with which you make decisions, and even in how you handle the people who once doubted you. When people look at you now, they see someone unstoppable, someone who doesn't crumble easily and knows exactly where they want to go. What's most interesting about all this is that your strength isn't about proving something to others. Sure, it's satisfying to see those who underestimated you reassess their judgments, but that was never the real goal. You're here because you believed in yourself, because you decided you deserved something greater, and because you had the courage to put in the work to get there. Now, every step you take is a reminder that you're not the same person you once were, and that's something no one can ignore. The people around you might try to pretend they haven't noticed the change, but deep down, they know they're dealing with someone who has evolved far beyond what they ever imagined. You didn't just come back. You came back to dominate. The determination that brought you here is the same force that will take you even further, and no matter how hard they try, no one can deny or diminish the impact of this new version of you. The most fascinating thing about a powerful comeback is the effect it has on those who didn't believe in you. These people were so busy judging you, putting you down, or simply ignoring your potential that seeing you return hits them like a slap in the face. And not just any slap. It's the kind that comes with force, catches them off guard, and completely changes the expression of those who thought they had you figured out. These people underestimated your strength, your resilience, and most of all, your determination. While they were busy laughing or criticizing, you were in silence, preparing. And it's precisely this preparation, done away from the spotlight, that makes the impact so powerful. Because now, they have no choice but to face the reality. You didn't just come back, you came back better than they ever imagined. The shock is inevitable because it strikes directly at their ego. The people who underestimated you like to think they were right about you. They created an image of who you were, a story that made sense to them, but your comeback completely destroys that narrative. More than that, it forces them to rethink everything they believed about you. It's not about revenge or rubbing your success in anyone's face. The shock doesn't come from the noise you make, but from the silent power of your achievements. It's the kind of impact that doesn't need explanation. It's in the results, in the strength you show with every step, and in the confidence that radiates from everything you do. What's even more fascinating is that for many of these people, the shock isn't just about you, it's a mirror. They start questioning how they could have underestimated you so much, why they didn't see this coming, and even doubting their own limitations. The impact of your return is so profound that it doesn't just affect you. It shakes the perceptions and certainties of those who doubted you. Now, every achievement, every step forward is a constant reminder that they underestimated the wrong person. And the best part? You don't need to say a word. Your actions speak for themselves. The shock is there, and those who judged you now have to deal with the strength you've built without any excuses or explanations. Few things hurt as much as being cast aside. The indifference of others, especially those you expected to support you, feels like a wound that takes a long time to heal. When you were at rock bottom, it seemed like everyone decided to move on without looking back. Words of disdain, silent judgments, or even complete abandonment. But it was exactly there in that emptiness that you found a strength you didn't even know you had. At first, it's hard to understand. You wonder why those people ignored you, why they didn't extend a hand when you needed it most, but over time you begin to realize that this lack of support forced you to become more independent, more resilient. When there's no one to hold your hand, you learn to stand up on your own. And that's one of the greatest strengths a person can have. The pain of abandonment transforms. Every moment of solitude becomes a brick you use to build your new foundation. What once seemed like weakness becomes your greatest weapon, because now you know you can face anything without relying on anyone. The people who left you behind thought they were weakening you, but in reality, they were helping you create a strength they can't even begin to understand. And when you return stronger than ever, they notice. They realize that while they were busy judging or ignoring you, you were growing, not because of them, but despite them. The impact is so profound that these same people now look at you with admiration or perhaps even regret, but what truly matters is that you no longer need them to move forward.